Okay. 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 Everybody here, right? Okay. 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 Today's daf is daf Bezos Hashem, daf pay Vav. Daf. Not a difficult topic. We'll go 1, 2, 3. We're going to start from Pei Omid Beis by the Mishnah. Okay, Pei Omid Beis by the Mishnah. What we're discussing over here is, when a woman gets married to her husband, the Kohen, she can eat truma. Okay, even if she's a Bas Yisrael, she can eat truma. When her husband dies, so it depends. If she has a child from that husband, from that Kohen husband, she could continue to eat. We've seen that if she has a child, she can continue to eat truma. So that's one point. And then another point is, as you know, a girl from her family side, if she's a daughter of a Kohen, she always ate truma all her life. But when she marries a Yisrael, she loses her rights to eat. She loses her rights to eat truma because she's married to a Yisrael. So look at the Mishnah: Bas Yisrael, a regular Jewish girl, a daughter of a Yisrael. Mu'ureses l'kohen. She's only engaged to the kohen, but she didn't do the chuppah marriage, right? She just got the kedushin. Or mu'uberes, or happens if she's from a. In other words, she's pregnant. She's married to the kohen. Her husband died, and she didn't have a child, but she was left pregnant. Layalenu. Or shemeres yavim l'kohen. Or what happens if she's a woman that she's a shemeres yavim waiting for a yibam, and her yavam is a kohen. All these cases, we're going to see she can't eat truma. You have to be fully married to the kohen or fully have a child in order for you to eat, or in order for her to eat truma. And the same thing like this: v'chein bas kohen Yisrael. If a bas kohen is, even if she's just engaged to a Yisrael, let's say she's just engaged to a Yisrael, all these cases apply. But let's say she's just mu'ureses the Yisrael. So really, she didn't fully marry the Yisrael. She still can't eat truma because once she starts the process of getting married to a Yisrael, she loses her rights to eat truma from her home. Lo yitoicha b'truma, she can't eat truma. Next, second case of the Mishnah talks about Meiser Sheni. That's Meiser Rishon. Meiser Rishon is the what you give, the 10% that you give to the Levi, right? When you have a basket of fruit, so you give a little bit to the Kohen, that's Truma. 10% you give to the Levi, that's called Meiser Rishon. And the next 10%, Meiser Ani or Meiser, depending on the year. But 10% that you gave to the Levi, so Bas Yisroel Mu'ureses LeLevi. You have a Jewish girl who's just engaged to Levi. So what's the din? Now she's not engaged. So what the Mishnah is going to say is she can't eat Meiser Rishon. Can't eat Meiser. Big chiddush, because you would Meiser Rishon has kedusha to it. Truma has kedusha. Meiser Rishon does not have kedusha. So therefore, I would think that you could eat Meiser. I could eat Meiser Rishon, but the Mishnah holds that Meiser Rishon right now is the only ones that can eat Meiser Rishon is a Levi. So therefore, Yisrael mu'ureses Levi. If she's only engaged to the Levi, mu'uberes min Levi, or she's just pregnant from Levi, her husband died the Levi, and she the child. She's waiting yibim for Levi. Levi Yisrael, or a Bas Levi that's married to Yisrael, she was eating Meiser Rishon all her life. Loi toicha b'Meiser, she can't eat Meiser Rishon. So we're going to understand that further in the second piece. Bas Levi mu'ureses l'kohen. Levi mu'ureses l'kohen. Bas Levi that is engaged to a kohen. Okay, so she ate Meiser all her life. Now she's just engaged to a kohen, so she wants to eat. She's only engaged. So it's not a full marriage. The opposite case, a Bas Kohen who ate truma all her life, and now she's wanting to get engaged to a Levi or married to a Levi. Loi toichel, this girl can't eat loy betruma, not in truma, v'loy b'ma'aser, not in Meiser Rishon. She can't Rishon because they're not in the Bas Levi, the rest is the Kayan, already severed ties with her Levi home. So therefore, she can't eat Meiser Rishon anymore, but she shouldn't fully get into the Kayan's family. She's only engaged to the Kayan. So therefore, she can't eat Truma. Okay, so the Gemara asks a very interesting question, and that's a question that we brought up in the Mishnah. You're telling me that a Bas Yisrael that's engaged to a Levi, she can't eat Meiser, only if they're married. Wait a second. I thought any Jew could eat Meiser Rishon, whether you're married to the Levi or not, because Meiser Rishon is like the property of the Levi. It's like his own personal money. Usahei Zara, let her be a non-Levi. Zara mile ochla b'maser. Doesn't a non-Levi have the right to eat Meiser Rishon? Everybody has the right to eat Meiser Rishon. And for the Gemara, Omer Rav Nachman Omer Shmuel. Rav Nachman Omer Shmuel said, Hamani Rav Meir. Our Mishnah goes according to Rav Meir. Rav Meir has a chiddush din that just like Truma is only eaten by Kohanim, Rav Meir holds Meiser Rishon also l'zorim. Meiser Rishon is prohibited from a non-Levi. A Kohen could also eat Meiser Rishon because he's part of the Levi family. As you know, a Kohen is from Levi, but Meiser Rishon is only Levi or Kohanim. It cannot be eaten by Yisrael. Where do you see Rav Meir has this opinion? The Tanya we learned in the Brisa, we go to Pei Vav Amud Aleph, Truma leKohen. Truma can only be eaten by a Kohen. U'Meiser Rishon leLevi. Meiser Rishon can only be eaten by a Levi. And Huadin by a Kohen. Divrei Rav Meir. These are the words of Rav Meir. So that's clearly Rav Meir holds that Meiser Rishon and of our Mishnah that says you have to be totally married to a Levi in order for a Bas Yisrael to eat Meiser Rishon. Now, Rab Lazar ben Azariah matira leKohen. Rab Lazar ben Azariah gave permission for a Kohen to eat Meiser Rishon. So wait a second. Matira michlal de ikaman de aser. What does that mean? Rab Lazar ben Azariah says a Kohen could eat Meiser Rishon. Of course, Rav Meir also holds that a Kohen could eat Meiser Rishon because a Kohen is like a Levi. They're cousins. Ella, Ema, he says another thing, another even bigger chiddush. You normally think that Meiser Rishon is only given to a Levi, right? 10% to the Levi. Husband, as I said, no, what if you can't find the Levi, you can give your Meiser Rishon to a Kohen. And the way remember his opinion is Rabbi ben Azariah was a Kohen. And he said, you can Meiser Rishon, you don't have to find the Levi. So the author of our Mishnah that says that Meiser Rishon is exclusively eaten by who? By Leviim. The author of our Mishnah is who? Rav Meir. So the Gemara asks the question, my time with Rav Meir. Where did Rav Meir get this opinion that Meiser Rishon is exclusive for Leviim? Amar Rav Acha b'nei Rabba Mishmei de Gemara. Rav Acha b'nei Rabba said in the name, he heard this is exactly, he has a tradition that this is Rav Meir's opinion. And Rav Meir himself said this. The pasuk says the 10% of Meiser Rishon is a separation like Truma. So the Torah equates Meiser Rishon to Truma. So Darshan's Rav Meir, ma Truma asura lezarim, just like Truma, it cannot be eaten by Yisrael. Af Meiser Rishon also lezarim. So also Meiser Rishon cannot be eaten by non-Kohanim. Oh, another question. If that's the case, when a non-Kohen eats Truma, so if he does it by accident, he has to pay back a fine. He pays back 100%, plus he gives a 20% fine, a chaimish. And if he does it on purpose, he's chayiv misa b'dei shemaim. So would you say, Rav Meir, that Truma is Meiser Rishon is exactly like Truma? Ima Truma, just like Truma, chayovin alev misa. The chaimish, you chayiv misa if you eat it on purpose, a non-Kohen, and a chaimish, a chayiv 20%. Would I say the same non-Levi? He would get death, or he'd have to pay 20% more. Is Meiser Rishon so severe like Truma? Amakra, there's another pasuk that says Umeisu boy ki chalalu. Only when you eat Truma, boy, this extra word boy, then you get misa b'dei shemayim. Or the Yosef chamisisai olav boy v'loy b'maisa olav v'loy b'maisa. You darshan from this extra boy and word olav that those dinim of misa and fish only apply by Truma and it does not apply by maisa. According to Meiser Rishon is exactly like Truma that a non-Levi cannot eat, a Yisrael cannot eat Meiser Rishon. Rabbanan disagree. Rabbanan hold that what? That a non-Levi could eat Meiser Rishon. The Torah compares Truma to Meiser. So no, it's not that they can't eat it. Umat Truma toibeles af Meiser Rishon name toivel. What he means is that just like if you have a basket of fruit and you didn't take off Trumas and Meisris, it's not only you get a person who doesn't take off Trumas and Meisris is chayiv misa b'dei shemayim. Really, you chayiv misa b'dei shemayim. You have to make sure when you go to Israel to make sure everything has taken off Truma and Meisris properly. But even if the person only took off Truma and did not take off Meiser, then still will get misa b'dei shemayim. Funny thing, if you eat Meiser itself, Meiser Rishon itself, there's no problem. There's no Misa. A Yisrael could eat Meiser Rishon. But as long as it wasn't separated from the basket, then it's Tevel and it's Chayv Lav and Misa B'dei Shemayim. So that's what the Rabbanan learned. Ma Truma Tevelis, just like Truma is prohibits the entire basket and makes it Tevel, Af Meiser Rishon Nami Tevel. If you didn't take off Meiser Rishon, it also says that the basket is tevel. Look at the Tanya, like what Rabbi Yossi said. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Yochel lo yehechayev ela al tevel. I would have think that tevel is only by a case shleihurim mimenu kol ikar. You didn't take off any trumas, maestris, or anything like that. What happens if hurim truma gedayla? You took off a little truma that gave it to the Kohen, hurim mimenu rishon, but you didn't meiser rishon from the basket. You didn't give that 10%. Or you took off the Meiser Rishon, v'loy Meiser Sheni, but you didn't take off the Meiser Sheni, v'afila Meiser Oni benayim. You didn't take off the other 10%, the 10% that belongs to the Levi. Or let's say you took off the 10% belonging to Levi. You forgot to bring the take off 10% for Meiser Sheni to bring up to Jerusalem, or take off take off a 10% during the years that you're supposed to give it to the poor people. How do you know if you didn't do that the food is to eat? Not only is the food also to eat, it's like tevel. You get shemayim. So the pasuk says, "You're not allowed to eat it in your cities." So the word bisharecha refers to meiser oni. Okay, so we darshan you're not allowed to eat something if you didn't take off the bisharecha, the type of food that's supposed to go to the oni. Didn't take off meiser oni, the food remains tevel. That's how Rabbi Yossi says. And we darsha meiser oni. Therefore, just like this v'achlu b'sharecha refers to meiser oni, meiser oni by the first pasuk loisucha lecho refers to meiser oni. V'amarachamona loisucha, and Rabbi Torah says don't eat it. So therefore, we have a position that tells you in Madach that even if you didn't take off meiser oni, you already call it tevel. Certainly, if you didn't take off meiser sheni or meiser rishon, which are more severe, it's called tevel, and that is the drasha. So the Gemara is now going to question. Then there is another drasha. There's a loisucha drasha. So why do you compare it to truma? Why did you need that? What do Rabbanan need to compare it to truma if you have the pasuk of Rabbi Yossi? The imahasam. If you just had the pasuk of Rabbi Yossi of loisucha lecho, havamina lalav, I would think that is just a lav. But if you eat it, if you off meiser, you just get a prohibition, but you don't get misa. Misa loy, I wouldn't think that you get misa. Kamash malon, what Rabbanan learned, that just like when you don't take off truma from a basket of fruit, if you eat it, you get misa b'dei shemayim. So also, if you didn't take off meiser rishon itself from the basket of fruit, even if you gave truma, you get misa b'dei shemayim if you eat it. That's why it's very, very important. Lishna achrin, another version had it. So another version, same idea, that the Gemara is just questioning. Why do you Rabbanan need the pasuk matruma af meiser rishon teveles? Same thing. Meiser rishon the tavel with the Rabbi Yossi nafka. I know that meiser rishon makes something tevel from Rabbi Yossi. So that's the Gemara asks it in a question, not that it's a raya. Imahi, so the Gemara says havimina lalav aval misa loy. With Rabbi Yossi alone, I would think it's only a prohibition, but I wouldn't think yechai misa deshmayim kamashman. That's what the Rabbanan need. The comparison between truma to meiser rishon. So new Gemara. So we just established that our Mishnah is the unique position of Rabbi Meir. Our Mishnah goes according to Rabbi Meir that prohibits a non-Levi from eating Meiser Rishon. So the Gemara says, "B'mai akimsa." What do you interpret our Gemara? Ki Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir. Then it doesn't make sense. Ema Seifa. Let us say the Seifa of the Mishnah. Bas Levi mu'uresis l'koyim. A Bas Levi. Let's take this example. A Bas Levi that's engaged to a kohen. Mishnah said, "Loi toy betruma v'loi b'mai truma," because you're just engaged to the kohen, not fully married to the kohen. You can't eat truma. V'loi b'maisa, she can't eat maisa. Wait a second, but she was a Bas Levi. Even if you consider her a non-marriage to the kohen, why can't she eat Meiser Rishon? She was always a Levi. So why can't she eat Meiser Rishon? What is she? Why is she considered a non-Levi? She's a daughter of a Levi engaged to a kohen. Why can't she eat Meiser? So Amar Rav Sheshes explained. The Gemara is going to give two terutzim. Rav Sheshes teretz and Mar Berei Rabbeinu teretz. First, Rav Sheshes explains that the ratio of the Mishnah, that part of the Mishnah is my eino echas. What does it mean that she doesn't eat? The Ketani means eino nesenes l'shus litroim, that she has no permission to take off if she gets Meiser Rishon that belongs to her groom, right? Her future husband. So normally on Meiser Rishon, we know that the Levi has to take off 10% of his Meiser Rishon and give it back to the kohen. That's called Trumas Meiser. That's something I should have pointed out. When a Levi gets his Meiser Rishon, he has to take off 10% and give it to him. Now, the purpose that if this lady, this Bas Levi that's engaged to a kohen, she can't eat the truma that she gets from her future husband unless she takes Meiser. And she can't this kohen without asking her husband's permission. You see, she's not really married, so she can't do something on behalf of her husband without getting permission from him. So Michlal, this implies the Nesua, if she was married to her husband, Noisenis Rishus, she has permission to take off Trumas and Meiser without asking her husband. So Gemara says, and that is 100% correct. That means a woman that's married to a Levi, she has permission, like the Bas Kohen married to the Levi, has permission to take off some mice and give it to another Kohen. We learned that you eat it in every place, you and your family. That means Meiser Rishon can be eaten anywhere. Now, Limeid, this teaches you al Nesua Bas Yisrael that she has that when you're married to the Levi, you have the right to give off Trumas Meiser to the Kohen without asking your husband. Wait a second. Maybe the Torah is just telling you that Meiser Rishon you can give to your wife. Beischem is your wife. How do you know that it means that she has permission to give off Trumas Meiseris without the permission of her husband? Amrit, we will say, Truma Chamura Echelas. When a Bas Yisrael is married to a Kohen, as a full wife, she can eat Truma, Maisa Hakal Loikolshkein. If she's married to a Levi, certainly she can eat the Meiser Rishon belonging to the husband. So what's the chiddush that the Torah is telling you, the novelty that the Torah is telling you, that the wife of a Levi can also eat Meiser Rishon? Wife of a Kohen, Truma, the wife of a Levi can eat Rishon. Rather, this teaches you, Al Nesua Bas Yisrael, if he's married to Bas Yisrael, the Levi is Bas Yisrael, Shonaisenes Rishus, Litroim, she has permission to give off Truma. She has permission to take off Truma on behalf of her husband, to give off Truma Meisers and kosher it. Mar Bedrei Ravina Amar. Rabbi Ravina gives another teretz. Again, the question is, the Mishnah, if you say Mishnah goes to Rabbi Meir, that the Mishnah is that going according to Rabbi Meir, that only a Levi can eat Meiser Rishon, how do you explain this part of the Mishnah? Bas Levi mureses lekoyin, or Bas Koyin lelevi. Let's say a Bas Koyin that's engaged to a Levi. right? She can't eat truma, a meiser. Wait a second, she's a bas kohen. Why can't she eat meiser, even if she's just engaged to the Levi? So, what does Mardrei Bavina mean? Loima she'ein cholkula meiser bebasic granites. That means that if she's just engaged to this Levi, she cannot go down to the granaries to somebody who wants to give meiserishin alone and say, "Listen, my husband's a Levi. Please give me the meiserishin." We don't give it to her. Husband has to come with her to these to the granaries of the Israel that wants to separate meiserishin. What's the reason? So Hanicha, this all makes sense that what the Mishnah is saying, she can't go alone to the granaries. The Amar Mishem Yichud. We don't want women going to other men's businesses, introducing themselves that they're the wife of a Levi. Please give me the meiserishim, because this can lead to immoral behavior. She must. So that's. But according to the Omar, that the reason why we don't want a woman to go to the granaries, to the granos. Why? Because if she continues to introduce herself as a Bas Levi, one day, even divorced, and she's a Israel, right? If she's a Israel, he's going to continue going to the guy. Please give me the meiserishin, and it turns out that she's not married to the guy anymore. So then that's why we don't give her the meiserishin. If that's the case, grusha bas Levi mi lo achla masla. If that's the case, then if she is a bas Levi, if she always was a bas Levi, and she's married to another Levi or married to a Kohen, but she always was a bas Levi, even if she gets divorced, she could always eat meiser. Answers the Gemara, well, Tamech, according to your reason, grusha bas Kohen mila achla betruma, even a regular bas Kohen that's married to a Kohen. The Mishnah says a bas Kohen that's married to a Kohen, she should not go alone by herself to the granaries. Why? Because according to this opinion is because we're afraid that one day he's going to divorce her. And so the Gemara asks, according to your opinion, even if he divorces her, but she's a bas Kohen, she always ate truma at home. But with Geyser, Elegaz Bishum Yisrael. Why we don't want it to happen? If you one wife of a Kohen that she can, then even when he's married to a Bas Yisrael, she'll do it too. And by a Bas Yisrael married to a Kohen, there's a real big concern, because maybe she'll get divorced from the Kohen and she'll continue going to the granaries collecting truma or meiser. It's the same thing over here, that even though it's a Bas Levi and she always ate truma, so he ate meiser, and so even if she's divorced, she'll go back and eat meiser. But if he was married to a Bas Yisrael, that could be a problem, because when she gets divorced and she continues going to people collecting meiserishin, that would be a problem, because they're giving it to meiserishin to a non-Levi anymore. So the Gemara says, if that's Amish's team, my even if she was married, completely married to her, if they're completely married to each other, so she can't go by herself down to the granaries. Why does the Mishnah only say Bas Levi Mu'ureses L'Koyen, and you're telling me Loy B'Mas Meiser or Truma means she can't go to the granaries collecting Trumas and Meisers, even if she was married to the Kohen? We said because there's a problem of Grusha, maybe she'll get divorced or something like that. So, or Yichud, maybe. So there, that applies even if she's a married woman. So why does the Mishnah only say Mu'ureses? So the Gemara says, I did the Tani Reish Mu'ureses, Tani Nami Sefer Mu'ureses. The Mishnah, and we're trying to say Bas Yisrael that's only Mu'ureses to a Kohen cannot eat Truma, but an Asua would be able to eat Truma. So therefore, Aisha had to be only discussing a case of Mu'ureses. So the Sefer also uses the word Mu'ureses, but that applies even if she was married. So according to Mar Berei Vina, he's just explaining the end of the Mishnah. The end of the Mishnah says basically that a woman who's married to a Kohen should not walk in by her to a granary and say, I'll introduce herself, I'm the wife of so-and-so the Kohen or so-and-so the lady, please give me your Truma or Maisra. And the reason is because we're afraid that one day he'll give her a divorce, and the guy who's giving off the Trumas and Maisras won't hear of it and will continue to give her. And if she's a Bas Yisrael, he's giving her Trumas and Maisras, and that could be a big problem. Tana Rabbanan, New Gemara. Truma l'koyin. Truma has to be given to the koyin. Umaisarishan l'levi divrei Rabbi Akiva. Maisarishan can only be given to a Levi. That's what Rabbi Akiva says. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says, we go to Amud Beis, l'koyin, it could be even given to a koyin. So the Gemara says, l'koyin v'lei Levi. There's Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says it's only given to a koyin, not to Levi. What Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah meant, af l'koyin. You could also give it to a koyin. So it's a fantastic machlokes between Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah and Rabbi Akiva. When you give off Ma'aser Rishon, Rabbi Akiva says you're not yotzei until you give it to a Levi. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said you can even give it to a kohen. So the Gemara says, my time with Rabbi Akiva. What is the reason of Rabbi Akiva? The pasuk says, "Ve'leviim tedaber v'amata leviim." The Torah says to Leviim, God said, "I'm giving you the gift of Maasros." So it says, "Ve'el ha-leviim." The pasuk says, only give it the Ma'aser Rishon, only give it to the Levites. The Idach, what does Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah do with that? It says, give it to the Levi. Kid Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, that the word ha-leviim is not exclusively a noun used to describe the word Levi could also mean kohanim. And Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi commented throughout the Tanakh, the Esrim v'Albom HaKoimis, Nikru HaKahanim Leviim. In 24 places, Kahanim are called Levinim. I'll give you one example. Kahanim haLeviyim b'nei Tzaddik, the son of Tzaddik, who was a kohen, and the pasuk anyway, we see that the word Levi can be used to describe a kohen. So the Torah, when it says Ma'aser Rishon, that also, the meant that it could also refer to the Ma'aser Rishon could also refer to a kohen. Rabbi Akiva, who said it exclusively to the Levi. How? You can't say that Ma'aser Rishon can be given to a kohen. Why? The pasuk says by Ma'aser Rishon you can eat it anywhere. It's type of food that can be eaten anywhere. Yotza kohen the pasuk is words b'chol malkai. So you tell Ma'aser Rishon can be eaten anywhere, but the Torah is specifically telling you this to tell you that it excludes a kohen cannot accept Ma'aser Rishon because he can't eat it anywhere. In a basic kavaros, a kohen can't enter a cemetery. A Levi can enter a cemetery, and Ma'aser Rishon has to be so universal type of food that you can take it anywhere. So therefore, the Torah hints that Ma'aser Rishon cannot be given to a kohen. That's according to Rabbi Akiva. Idach, what does Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah do with the pasuk? Kol heichad the boya the loy boya. The Torah says that what the Torah is telling you is you can eat it anywhere. That means the loy boya. You don't have to eat it in the walled city of Jerusalem. Ma'aser Rishon can be eaten anywhere, in Tel Aviv or Bnei Brak, wherever. The Torah is telling you that if you eat it with a tumah, loy laki, you don't get malchus on it. So therefore, it's not exclusively telling you that you could only give it to a Levi. The Torah is just telling you just halachas about Ma'aser Rishon, but Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah sticks guns and can be gifted to a kohen. So now the Gemara tells a fabulous story. Ahi Ginsa, there was this garden, probably that what belonged to Rabbi Akiva. The Hava Shokar Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Ma'aser Rishon Mina. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was standing on line, and he would always collect the Ma'aser Rishon. Now, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was a kohen. So instead of telling Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Akiva owned this garden. Instead of telling Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, no soup for you, he said, also Rabbi Akiva, ahadre lepiska lebei. He turned around the openings to this garden, that the only way to get to the opening of the garden was to go through a Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, in order so that Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah should stop coming to collect Ma'aser Rishon, because Rabbi Akiva had his opinion that Ma'aser Rishon can only be given to a Omar. So Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said a comment. It sounds like a negative comment, but he said, I don't need his money, because Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was the wealthiest of all the Tanaim. So he says, you think I need his little Ma'aser Rishon? Akiva b'tarmilai. Akiva has this little flask. He was a shepherd, so he has like a wallet. But I can continue to live. I don't really need this I don't really need his little Meiserisha. Anyway, he moved on. Itma. Here's the end of the Gemara, and this is where it ends. Itma. Nowadays, during the time of the second base of Migdash, they stopped giving the Meiserisha to who? To the Levium. They stopped. You don't give it. So the Gemara asks, with why did they stop and give a knas that Levium, no more Meiserisha? So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yonasan and Savaya had an argument. What's the reason? Chad Amar, one said, Shloi Alu B'mei Ezra. One said that when Ezra asked people to come up and join him for the second base of Migdash, Levium didn't show up. They had it so good in Bavel, they didn't want to come. V'chad Amar, and others say, Kidei Sheyismachu Kahanim Olav B'mei Tum Asam. That Kahanim should have, Kahanim, when they're Tameh, they can't eat Truma. At least they should have food when they're tamei. So they was taken away from the Levium and given to Kahanim because they need extra food because they can't eat truma when they're tamei. So the Gemara says that makes no sense. If you tell me that the reason that they Ezra don't give the Meiserisha is because they didn't join us when we were building the second base of Migdash at the beginning. Therefore, I understand. We gave them a fine, no more Meiserisha to Levites. Kahanim need an extra source of income when they're. That's why you don't give it to a Levi. So the Gemara just retracts and explains itself better. Everybody holds that there was a fine, a knas, no more Meiserisha to the Levi, Shloi Ola b'nei Ezra. They didn't join building the second base of Migdash, and that's why no more Meiserisha to the Levi. And Ezra fined them. So what's the argument? Who did Ezra say you should give the Levi to? Who did Ezra say that you should give Meiserisha to? Ezra said Meiserisha to poor people. It's almost like Hefker, Bezdin, Hefker. And therefore, you give it to poor people. Now, even according to Rabbi Kiva, it says it's supposed to only be given to a Levi, but these poor people are like, messengers of the Levi, so to speak, and they take the place of the Levi, and that's why it's good. You give it only to poor people. Umar Sava, but the other person hold, during their Tumah are Niyim. In other words, Kahanim, even if they're rich, you could still give it to Kahanim. So one held that you only give the Meiserisha to poor people, and the other held for rich Kahanim, you can give it to, because Kahanim, even if they're rich, during their times of any Truma, so therefore you give it to a rich Kahan. So Gemara says, if the whole reason why you're supposed to give your Meiserisha to poor people, Rabbi Kiva lived way after the second base of Migdash, so therefore Rabbi Kiva didn't want to give the truma to the rich Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah. That's why Rabbi Kiva turned around his door to his garden in order that he shouldn't have to refuse Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah. He just didn't want him to show up anymore to collect Meiserisha. According to the opinion that you could, even after Ezra's fine, you could still give your Meiserisha to rich Kahanim, so why did you refuse him? In fact, the Ezra said, don't give it to Levi, only give it to rich Kahanim or Aniyim. And for the Gemara, this is what Rabbi Kiva wanted to do. He told Rabbi Lazar this was either if you're standing on line and you hold this line, and therefore you're coming as a replacement or as a replacement for a Levi, Islach, then I'm giving it to you because that's what Ezra said. Give it, instead of to the Levi, give it to rich Kahanim. But if you don't hold of Ezra, and let's say you're thinking to yourself that I have rights to it in the first place, I'm not coming because I'm a messenger of a Levi. I originally thought to myself that I hold that you could give it to a Kayin. Even from the Torah said, you don't necessarily need to give Meiserisha to the Levi. You can even give it to the Kayin. So Rabbi Kiva told him, less luck, then you don't get. Because I hold that you can't give And if you're not representing the Levi, then I'm not yotzi the mitzvah of giving off Ma'aser Rishon. That's why Rabbi Kiva did not want Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah to show up in his garden. One more piece. How do you know that the Leviim did not show up when Ezra asked them to come? The Ksiv, the pasuk says, they all started to rise up and go from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael. And basically, he had the lower class of people. Not everybody joined him. And the pasuk says in Ezra that B'tzeim Alanar, I got around by the river Habal Ava, the Nachman Sham Shloisha, I started looking around who's joining me in this pilgrimage. Ezra says, I looked around, I don't see any Levites. So, they made probably, and there's no Levi. So therefore, that's why. Amar Rav Chizda said, Batchila, in the earlier times, before the Beis HaMikdash, earlier times, the enforcers of Shoftim, of the Jewish police force, was Levi, because always Levi was Kanoim. They were the ones that fought against the rest of the Jewish people when it came to the Egel. The forces of the Jewish law, ones of the Achshav, we see that he has a bunch of lazy to them. They didn't even cause her to go build and join in coming to Israel during the second Beis HaMikdash. So because of that, Ein Ma'amidim Shoitrim Israel. You don't put enforcers only from Yisrael. Shenema Shoitrim Arabim B'Rashechem. It's not a pasuk, but basically it implies that we put enforcers from Harabim, the Jewish people, which are more in number than the Levites. Not from Levi. We don't put them as enforcers anymore. Okay. Baruch Hashem. We finished the daf.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Shikoyach.
All right.
I'll get the nacht.
Good night. Good night. We'll see you tomorrow, Mr. Hashem.
Now you can rest, Baruch.
Yes.
Take a deep breath.
Yeah, it was a good daf today. Okay. Hashem.
A good enough, Baruch.
Good nacht, everybody.
Bye. Bye.